Hello, it's Friday, October 20th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. What's up tonight? Well, earthsky.org tells us this by way of headline: Orionid meteor shower peak tonight. Tonight and most of the weekend, actually, presents the Orionid meteor shower at its best. And this night might well be the shower's peak. Late Saturday night and Sunday morning might be good times to watch as well. On both of these nights, meteors should become visible starting at late evening. They'll probably be most prolific in the few hours before dawn, October 21st. But if you can, try watching before dawn on October 22nd as well. From a dark site, you might see a maximum of 10 to 15 meteors per hour. Fortunately, today is only one day after new moon, so there won't be that pesky moonlight to ruin this year's Orionid meteor shower. In fact, it will be hard to catch that young waxing crescent moon. It'll be low in the west after sunset. As with any meteor shower, the best time to watch will be between the hours of midnight and dawn, regardless of what your time zone is. The meteors, vaporizing bits of comet ice and dust, will look like streaks of light in the night sky, and of course they're sometimes called shooting stars. As that pre-dawn darkness starts to give way to dawn, watch for the planets Mars and Venus to rise into your eastern sky. There'll be a sky almanac. You can find it later by going to ufoheadlinenews.com. The almanac can help you determine rising times for Mars and Venus in your particular area of sky. Or you can just watch for the very bright object that ascends in the east before sun. That will be Venus. The pre-dawn and dawn sky also offers a great view of Sirius right now, which is the brightest star in the sky. You can watch for it in the south, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, over your heads just before dawn. The Orionids stem from debris from that most famous of all comets, Comet Halley, or Halley, even Hawley. We've heard all three. It's spelled Halley, by the way. The comet last visited Earth in 1986 and will next return in 2061. As Comet Halley moves through space, it leaves debris in its wake that strikes Earth's atmosphere almost fully around October 20th to 22nd every year. The comet itself is nowhere near, but around this time every year, the Earth is intersecting the debris from that comet. If the meteors originate from that comet, then why are they called Orionids? The answer: meteors in annual showers are named from that point in our sky from which they appear to radiate. The radiant point for the Orionids is in the direction of the constellation Orion the Hunter, hence the name. Our author here, Bruce McClure for earthsky.org, makes this cool suggestion: bring along a blanket or a chair, a lawn chair, to your watching destination after midnight or before dawn, and then lie back comfortably while gazing upwards. Although a somewhat modest shower, these swift-moving meteors are sometimes bright. They leave what is called a persistent train, a glowing streak that lingers momentarily after the meteor's gone. Remember, even one meteor can be a thrill. You just have to find that dark sky. Bottom line: best night for the Orionid meteor shower in 2017 will probably be October 20th to 21st, especially between midnight and dawn on October 21st. You might see as many as 10 to 15 meteors per hour, provided you have a dark site, and there's no pesky moonlight. Well, there's a little traveling companion for planet Earth, a traveling buddy, as it's being called. There was talk of this, and now there's some confirmation as to what it is. Here's the headline from phys.org.news. Earth's new traveling buddy is definitely an asteroid, not space junk. At the 49th Annual Division for Planetary Sciences meeting in Provo, Utah, astronomers led by Vishnu Reddy from the University of Arizona confirmed the true nature of one of Earth's companions on its journey around the sun. There'd been plenty of speculation. Was this thing a burned-out rocket booster? tumbling along a peculiar near-Earth orbit around the Sun and only occasionally getting close enough to be studied with even the largest telescopes? Not at all, as it turns out. This object had been given a number. It was 469219, or 2016 HO3. And based on previous observations, most astronomers had strongly suspected the object was just an ordinary asteroid and not space junk. It did take a team of astronomers, led by Vishnu Reddy, assistant professor at the Lunar and Planetary Laboratory out of the University of Arizona, working with one of the world's largest telescopes. That telescope is called the Large Binocular Telescope, or LBT. It's located on Mount Graham in southeastern Arizona, and it was able to detect the true nature of this near-Earth object. 2016 HO3 is a small near-Earth object, or NEO. It measures no more than 100 meters, or 330 feet across, and while orbiting the Sun, it also appears to circle around the Earth as, quote, a quasi-satellite, end quotes. Only 5 quasi-satellites have been discovered so far, but 2016 HO3 is the most stable of the bunch. The provenance of this object is unknown. On timescales of a few centuries, 2016 HO3 remains within the 38 to 100 lunar distances from us. Soon after its discovery in 2016, astronomers just weren't sure where this object came from. But in a recent presentation at that annual Division for Planetary Sciences Conference of the American Astronomical Society, held in Provo, Utah, Vishnu Reddy and his colleagues show that Earth's new traveling buddy is an asteroid and not space junk. The new observations confirm that 2016 HO3 is a natural object of similar provenance to other small NEOs that zip by the Earth every month. Want to visualize HO3's orbit? Well, it's suggested here. One way to do that is by picturing, of all things, a hula hoop dancer. The Sun, in this analogy, twirling 2 hoops around the hips at the same time, ever so slightly out of sync. While it orbits the Sun, the object makes yearly loops around the Earth. There's a link here to a YouTube video. You can watch this all happen. We'll post that link later at ufoheadlinenews.com. And as a result of this motion, the object appears to orbit Earth, but it's not gravitationally bound to our planet. Here's a quote from Christian Vellet. He is the director of that LBT observatory. He says, quote, "Of the near-Earth objects we know of, these types of objects would be the easiest to reach, so they could potentially make suitable targets for exploration. With its binocular arrangement of 2 8.4-meter mirrors, coupled with a very efficient pair of imagers and spectrographs, this LBT, Large Binocular Telescope, is ideally suited to the characterization of these Earth's companions." End quotes. While we're out in outer space, we find this headline, written by Mike Weiner for BGR. "Something is floating around Saturn, and NASA isn't sure what it is." Several weeks ago, NASA's Cassini spacecraft performed its final fateful dive into Saturn, destroying itself in the planet's atmosphere and ending that incredible mission that spanned nearly 2 full decades. Today, even though its mechanical body has been vaporized, the information it sent back during its time in orbit continues to surprise scientists. The most recent example of this is a newly discovered quirk within Saturn's atmosphere, a quirk which researchers are struggling to explain. During Cassini's daring trips between Saturn and its iconic rings, the spacecraft's powerful mass spectrometer picked up a puzzling mix of chemicals that made NASA's scientists scratch their heads. The most likely explanation? Saturn's gorgeous rings are shedding. Cassini's discovery wasn't just blind luck. NASA's earlier missions dating back to the 1970s provided data which suggested that Saturn's upper atmosphere was littered with bits of ice, and scientists believed it was coming off of the planet's rings. In an effort to test this theory, Cassini checked it out for itself, finding not water, but methane and potentially carbon monoxide. Other unidentified molecules were also detected, and scientists are still trying to isolate what exactly they could be. The concentrations of these chemicals are greater near the planet's equator, which points out once again the possibility that the material is raining down on Saturn from its own rings. That makes sense, but there are still some very puzzling questions that haven't been answered, including the process by which these particles depart from the rings and find their way to the planet's surface. Quote, "We have a lot of work to do to understand how they're getting in there," end quotes. That's from planetary scientist Mark Perry of Johns Hopkins University. It's the applied physics laboratory part. He explains, quote, "None of the models predict this," end quotes. "This is a completely unexpected discovery, and one that will surely lead to further theories about how Saturn and its rings behave. Without the Cassini there to provide further data, those answers might be hard to come by. NASA doesn't currently have any concrete plans to return to Saturn, though there are a reported handful of proposed missions that could see yet another robotic probe head to that ringed planet." Mysteries within mysteries, rings upon rings, shall we say? We're about to suit up and jump into that UFOstalker.com UFO report machine. But before we do, this is the part where we again invite you to join us as we venture off the beaten path. It's the same slot as the UFO headline news, but we go off that beaten path. Tomorrow we've got a story about how an archaeologist has spotted hundreds of mysterious ancient stone gates, thanks to Google Earth. And it seems there might be some hardcore science substantiation of something many of us have believed for a long time, that when we die, we still have a bit of consciousness remaining for longer than previously thought. And we'll toss in some of the latest sightings of that mysterious Chicago phantom. We hope you can squeeze us into your weekend listening schedule, right here on Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. Speaking of Chicago, we'll start with a black triangle sighting in Rockford, not too far away, Rockford, Illinois. This is MUFON case number 87407. The date of the sighting is the 16th of October, 2017, and it got a next day report. Here's the summary. Triangular-shaped craft seen hovering towards residents, and then pause, hover, stationary, and then a continued path. There are sighting specifics here that tell us the viewing distance initially was 101 feet, eventually 500 feet. The altitude was treetop. The duration of this sighting was 2 minutes, and the object features get a description of patterned surface and wings. The flight path was hovering, then path, and then a straight line path, and then a path, and then more hovering. And quite obviously, this object was shaped like a triangle. The event, well, it seemed to go something like this. First-person words of our witness. While visiting my father in Rockford, Illinois, approximately 2 hours after having a 20-minute conversation about UFOs and the government's role in these crafts, my father witnessed a triangular-shaped craft hovering just above the treetops and above the houses across the street and towards his home. He saw this through the front bay window. My father said, "Look, son, there's your UFO." I laughed it off because I thought he was making fun of me, but about 5 seconds later I took him seriously. I looked. What I saw was a triangular-shaped craft with 4 to 6 off-white to yellowish lights shining down on the ground. This craft had red, white, and blue lights on the side. These lights seemed to be chasing each other in a sequential pattern. I ran outside to get a closer look, and the craft began to continue its path from east to west, behind the trees, behind those houses next door. It went out of sight. We stayed outside for about 30 minutes and saw another craft, which we thought might be the same. It was making the same path from east to west. It had lights underneath and flashing lights on the side, but it did seem to be a different craft, because this craft made noise like a plane. It left a jet stream, whereas this first craft we watched made no noise, had no jet stream, no disruption to the atmosphere surrounding it. I did catch this second craft on video. I didn't submit it, but I did not catch the first craft. Now, the second craft definitely looks like a plane. However, what was awkward was the lights underneath this plane and the lights on the side of it. We don't see normal aircraft with those lights. I work for an airline, and my father works for aerospace manufacturing, so you might say we're somewhat familiar with planes. Yup, always interesting to have that professional take on what's up there. By process of elimination, it's often easy for people like that to determine what it isn't. However, determining what it is, another question altogether. Let's go to Redding, Kansas, spelled Reading. That's the setting for MUFON sighting number 87381. The date of this sighting is October 16th, 2017. It got a same-day submission. Here's the summary. Orange ball in the sky. Disappeared, and then another appeared, and so on. Happened 4 times until the final ball faded out. The sighting specifics indicate a viewing distance unknown, as well as the altitude. It was also unknown. The sighting duration was 3 minutes. Object features unknown. Flight path, straight line path, and our witness reports this object was shaped like a sphere. No mention of the meteorology, so let's just proceed. I was leaving my house around 9, and my road goes east to west. So I was driving, and I looked south. Often as I drive, I watch the stars. I noticed a bright orange-yellow light. At first it resembled a star or planet. I was surprised. I'd never seen a star that bright in a southerly direction. So I stopped my car and watched it. As I watched it, this thing faded out and then reappeared right next to its original location. It faded again appearing just next to where it had previously been, and then once more. On this final reappear, the object faded out and it didn't return. Incidentally, I've seen this happen twice before now in the same area, same direction. What's flying around over Redding, Kansas? And again, we have that orange color, in this case, orange-yellow. Hang on, we found something more orange. We've got a zip to North Carolina, the city of Spruce Pine. It's MUFON case 87470. The date of this sighting was back in July, actually on the 20th. It was reported October 20th, a bit later. But here's the summary. Bright orange orbs. They hover, then move instantly left to right. Stop automatically. Never seen anything like this. You see them every night. It is insane. And that's just the summary from our witness. They report under sighting specifics a viewing distance that was over 1 mile, an altitude treetop 500 feet or less. The duration of this sighting was 2 hours. But in spite of that, vexingly, the object features just get a report of none. The object flight path was stationary, hovering and then path, a straight line path, and then a path including a directional change. And they describe the shape of these objects as fireball. It seems that it was about 10 p.m. Me and my boyfriend were driving in the Blue Ridge Parkway, where we live close. And I looked over, and I saw a bright orange orb coming up above the treetop. We got out of the car, and we watched these things for 2 hours. They were doing weird maneuvers and vanishing instantly. Actually, we've been watching these things for about 3 or 4 months now. They show up almost every other night. When I first saw these orbs, what I thought was they're Chinese lanterns. But they were way too bright, and at such a distance, well, I also thought, could it be a military object? But after observing them more than once, there's absolutely no way. They move so quick, and then instantly come to a stop and just hover. They'll come up, move around a bit, and then go out like a light. I sat and watched 13 of these things come up, one after the other. There's no doubt in my mind it's UFOs. And it's a guarantee. If you come, you will see them. I've never seen anything like this. Absolutely amazes me. We show them to people all the time, but they have no idea what it possibly could be. These things amaze everybody who sees them. I can never, unfortunately, capture them on a camera very well because my phone isn't so good, so I can't even submit video, sadly. But it's an amazing thing to see, so contact me if you can. Thank you, Sabrina. And by contact her, we're pretty sure she means MUFON. However, there is a place underneath each sighting where you can do just that. We say thank you, Sabrina. And we say thank you, gentle listeners, for joining us on our weekly UFO journeys. But as it is, we've got to say goodbye for now because that's a wrap. Follow today's broadcast at ufoheadlinenews.com or iHeartRadio. Loving kindness. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.